Hello and welcome back to another episode. Now today I want to talk to you about a tragedy, probably one of the greatest tragedies of my life, well actually two of them, and that is losing not only important toys, not only important childhood sort of playthings, but also actually as an adult losing something which would have made quite a good investment, as it were. Now the first story I want to share with you here is to do with my Transformers. I love my Transformers. I loved them even more as a child. I still adore them today. And well, there's one Transformer which I had as a child, and I didn't understand just how valuable it would eventually become, or rather just how important it was in terms of the Transformers toy realms, you know, or the mythos, certainly the collectability of the toys, and that was the toy of Galvatron. Now I watched the Transformers movie as a child, the original, the best, the animated, wonderful, loved that film, and I've already shared in the previous video, for example, the fact that I have Hot Rod from that movie, but I also used to have the Galvatron toy, the G1 Galvatron. Now Galvatron was, for me, he was cooler than Megatron. Now that sort of goes without saying, for lots of people Galvatron's cooler than Megatron, but Galvatron made more sense to me as a child because I always thought that it was silly that Megatron transformed into a gun, a handgun, which not only could, for example, a human being pick up and shoot. I'm pretty sure I saw that in a couple of the cartoons, but also actually he could transform into a gun which was big enough for, say, Soundwave to pick up and shoot as well. And so when you had the Megatron toy, which was a handgun, I think, with a little scope on top, it never really made any sense to me. I didn't understand. I thought, well, how is this thing supposed to transform into that thing, that massive robot? Plus, as well, I don't know, I wasn't really into handguns as a child. For some reason, I wasn't a shooty kind of army kind of kid. Whereas Galvatron made perfect sense. Galvatron transformed into a cannon, and as a toy, when he transformed into a cannon, he was still in the same sort of scale realm. You know, he transformed as a robot into a big cannon, and as a toy, he transformed from a small toy into a reasonably small cannon. He just made more sense. So Galvatron was the leader of the Decepticons that I wanted, and eventually I got as a child. And I was so pleased, so proud of my Galvatron that I took him to primary school. I took him to school, and I really shouldn't have. Now, in school, we had, my first primary school was a very idyllic place. It had essentially massive field, massive playground. It was an old Victorian building in a village where there was sort of used to be a shop, but it shut down, and now it was just like 6 or 7 houses surrounded by fields. It was one of those idyllic little places, but every school though, every school has its characters, and every school has its, dare I say, bullies, and so on this particular summer's morning, it was getting towards the summer holiday, I took my Galvatron in. Everyone was taking toys in, actually. It must have been like an event, like a Friday, sort of dress down Friday, bring your toy in kind of thing. We all went in, we were all playing with our toys. Some people had like remote control stuff, some people had like Tonka, like the digging trucks and things that they took to the sand pit. Other people just brought in a football because, well, they didn't really have much of an imagination. But I brought in my Galvatron because I loved him and I wanted to share him. I wanted to show him to other people. Look, this is Galvatron. Galvatron, it's cool. And this guy called Nicholas, I won't say his surname, but this guy called Nicholas, Nicky, grabbed Galvatron, and me and my friends have been playing with him up until that point, and we've been playing, actually interacting with some maps that we had drawn, and I'll come back to those maps in a future video. But we're playing with this Galvatron, and there's these maps, this massive robot on this island, treasure island type thing. And Nick came over, picked up the toy, and ran across the playground, and I thought, oh, okay, he's just flying him around, he's going to bring him back. And he didn't. What Nicholas then did was ran across to the school's sort of mascot tree, this sort of conker tree, horse chestnut tree in the corner, climbed a little bit, so stood on the roots of the tree, so he was a little bit taller than a child of that age would have been. I think we were about 8 or 9 or whatever, maybe a bit younger actually, and and then threw Galvatron over the fence of the school onto well, what felt like the main road, but you know, onto a lane outside the school. And this was just as the milk was being delivered for the day. A big milk truck was coming past and just crushed Galvatron. Galvatron was not only lost to me, but he was destroyed forever. And that evening, when the school bell rang, and I say school bell, the dinner lady with the bell, whose job it was to ring the bell at the end of the day, when it rang, I went running out to meet whoever was picking me up, ran onto the pavement, ran up the road, and there was Galvatron just smashed into pieces. I remember seeing his sort of translucent orange, the gun barrel just on the floor, and I was in bits. Ironically enough, I was in bits because Galvatron was in bits. It was horrible. It was really, really, really not fun, and I never forgot it, really. Now this year I did manage to pick up this guy here. He is a Galvatron, but he's not as good as the original. I mean, he looks cooler, actually, I will give you that. In robot form, this Galvatron looks much more like Galvatron, actually. The G1 Galvatron didn't look all that much like him. But his transformation is just, it's overly complicated for what he is, for his size. And it doesn't quite come together. It sort of sits, doesn't click, it sort of sits loosely. So if you put him on a surface, he sort of starts to spread out and come apart again. He transforms into a tank as opposed to a cannon. So I eventually got a Galvatron, and now Galvatron sits usually just behind my head on the shelf, but it's just not the same. And eventually I hope to maybe get my hands on a G1 Galvatron, but I've never done it because it's not my Galvatron, it's just not the same Galvatron. So yeah. That's story number 1. Story number 2 has to do with something which I've never replaced and is not in this room, is not in the house at all, but I've actually owned 2 of them in my lifetime, and both of them have been destroyed. And I'm talking about the original Millennium Falcon Star Wars toy. This thing, as a child, was massive. It had sound effects, you had to put these big batteries in the bottom, had drop down legs, the top panel would come off and reveal like the room where they played space chess or whatever it's called. It would, the Millennium Falcon is iconic, and the toy was just brilliant, a beautiful, beautiful thing. Now, the first time I ever saw a Millennium Falcon toy was during a car boot sale. My mum and a friend of ours, a friend of the family, decided one week, okay, this Saturday we're going to go down to the local car boot sale, going to get rid of some of this junk that's lying around the house, and see if we can make some extra money, make some pocket money, as it were. So we went to this car boot sale, and I have sort of 2 abiding memories from the day. The first one actually was just how hawkish, how vulture-like other people at this car boot sale were. They were running in as soon as we parked up and opened up the boot, and even as a small child I sort of thought this was a bit rude. They had their hands in our boxes, they were sort of like reaching into the car, looking underneath things, trying to get a sense of what we had that was worth buying, presumably in order to resell it on their own store later in the day. So that's about like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. So they didn't make a very good impression, but it clearly made an impression because I remember it to this day. That's memory number 1. The memory number 2 is, as the day drew on, I'd spent my time wandering around, and obviously as a child I'm looking for toys. I'm going, oh, what toys are there? What toys are there? And there was this one toy store where this guy had set out a tarpaulin on the floor, on the sort of the grass, which was already bleached, sun bleached. He'd sort of set out this dark green tarpaulin on this sort of yellow grass, and on it were all these different toys and figures. So there's like a Thundercats tank type thing, there was a couple of Transformers but in really bad condition, and there was the Millennium Falcon. And there it was. and I wanted it. I really, really wanted that toy. Now the thing is, I went to my mum and I said, "There's a Millennium Falcon over there. Can I have it?" And Mum said, "No, we're here to make money, not to spend money. You know, go away, or you know, stop bothering me about this toy." And I and I just couldn't let go of it. I just couldn't let go of this toy. So I must have maybe 5, maybe 10 times throughout the day gone back to that guy's store and just stood staring at the Millennium Falcon. Just staring at it. And I could see, I mean, again, I knew what I was doing. I knew exactly what I was doing, because I could see this guy who was just like, "Oh, not him again, not this kid. Oh, he's not going to bite." What? Oh. Just trying to ignore me, sipping his coffee out of his flask or whatever, his tea. And as the day drew on, I'd go back again and just stare at the toy. And eventually, about sort of 3 to 5 o'clock, you know, late on in the afternoon, everything's starting to pack up, and he's thinking about packing up, and so's, you know, we're thinking about going home. And so I see that Mum's just about to start putting stuff back in the car, and I run back over to this guy's store, and he's starting to pack up as well. So he's rolling up his tarpaulin, he's got the toys off the, you know, on the grass for a moment while he's rolling it up, and I'm just, again, not saying anything, just staring at this toy. And he breaks, he just snaps. I swear I heard something go and he goes, "Take it, just take it, just go away." So I got a Millennium Falcon by by being a creepy little obsessed child going back and forward to this store. And I loved it. I loved this Millennium Falcon. But then the following week, some cousins of ours were visiting, and one of my cousins was just an utter bastard, and he came in and he said, "Oh, Mark, did you know that that this Millennium Falcon has got like a feature where it flies? If you push this button underneath, it'll fly off. It'll, you know, it's got engines on the back. You see the engines, stickers, of course. See these it'll fly away." "Really?" I said, "Wow, that's really cool." And he goes, well, let's give it a go, shall we?" So we open our upstairs bedroom window, press this button, that is to say a small nodule on the, you know, plastic of the toy, just push it, and he goes, "Okay, he says, I'll go downstairs and I'll be ready to catch it, okay, when it comes in for a landing." So he stood right at the other end of the yard or whatever. I chuck it out the window. Of course, it plummets like a stone, just smashed. I was so naive. So that's Millennium Falcon number 1. Now, very quickly, eventually I managed to get my hands on another Millennium Falcon, and this was through, I think, swapping a toy with a friend. I had, I forgot what it's called now, but I had like another spaceship toy type thing, this big thing that had a lid that came off, all these little men inside, and we swapped. And this second one, unfortunately, was also destroyed, but this one was destroyed because I had it on pride of place. It was never going to get chucked out of a window again, I said to myself. So I put it on this particular shelf in our bedroom. Unfortunately, I didn't actually keep an eye on the prevailing the behaviour of the sun, because it turned out that our bedroom window at that angle in certain times of the year would just be a prism for focusing the sun on that one spot where the Millennium Falcon was. And not only did I lose Millennium Falcon number 2, in this instance to melting, the sun just, it was like it was like the Death Star had come in and just and sort of shrunk and burned this thing down into like a little. It smelled horrible, by the way. So we went out one afternoon, came back, and the whole house stank of burnt plastic. But also as well, my watch, my prized possession at the time, my little calculator watch, was next to it, and it also got melted and destroyed. So that's two Millennium Falcons. I've had my quota and more. So I'm well aware that I probably shouldn't be trusted with a third. But yeah, there you go. Those are my two. 3 tragic stories, but my 2 toys, the 2 toys that I've lost in tragic circumstances, and they'll be with me until the day I die. It's just horrible, tragic stories of loss. I don't know, hopefully this has been an interesting video for you guys. If you have any similar stories, I really want to hear about them. Please do comment below. I don't know, I mean, if you happen to have a G1 Galvatron and you're wanting to get rid of it, I'm more than happy to talk about maybe buying it off you. If you have a Millennium Falcon, just don't trust me with it. Never trust me with a Millennium Falcon, it seems. Such a shame, because I loved that toy. I really did. Creepy child. Anyway, as ever guys, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.